Good afternoon, everybody.
Eight, so we can't really, don't have much recourse.
It looks like you're it, so we'll rock and roll. First, we'll tell you that today's meeting is very encouraging and uplifting. That's the first bit of good news. The second, I decided I didn't know how long it was going to last. It's lasting anywhere between an hour and 15, hour and 20 minutes. And so you'll walk out of here feeling better about everything and before the sun sets. So there you go. Let's start with, do you have any questions about your program?
I'm assuming the sub request doesn't apply to us at Golden Valley. Is that
No.
only for your Madera
Yes.
people? Just thought I'd ask.
It's the money.
I
Yeah.
figured.
Unfortunately, there was a time when our program paid for your subs, and we would reimburse you later on down the road, but can't do that anymore.
Okay.
In fact, the opposite is happening. We're charging your district for money,
For the program.
right?
Okay.
Good. That was a simple question.
What about getting good subs?
Well, we're paying $220 to $250 a day. I mean, you can make some serious cash if you want it.
Yeah, well, I got a math kid over at MFA, he's fresh, right straight out of college, and he's like, I can make more subbing than I can.
Is that right? Wow. Wow. Well, he doesn't get the benefits though. He doesn't get the seniority
Fresh on the
Right.
phone, you don't care.
or the retirement. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonder why your elves don't care about that.
Yeah, they don't give much.
No, that's a problem for later in life.
Yeah.
All right. So then let's talk about hope. And you'll need this talk, so we'll have two table groups. If you want to turn around or join the table, we've got some discussions going on for you. And I'm going to confess to you that I tapped into some old school skill sets. I used to be a youth pastor a long time ago. And so without the scripture, you're getting a sermon today. That's what you're getting. And if you go to church, it's going to feel somewhat like church. All right. So let's talk about hope. What is it? How can we gain it? How can we hold on to it? And why does hope motivate us to continue moving forward? Well, let's talk about the first question. What is hope? What is hope?
Feeling of optimism.
And why are we feeling optimistic?
We're looking forward to something.
So tomorrow is going to be a better day, or the relationship is going to be better tomorrow, or work is going to be a better day tomorrow, or in the near future, this is going to resolve itself and we can die. Good. So that's what hope is. And I mentioned that it's a sermon. If we were looking at scripture in 1 Corinthians, really, chapter 13, it says, now faith, hope, and love. So the Bible really distinguishes between faith and hope. Faith is actually the certainty of things that I can't see that will come into place. So faith is saying, I don't have any money in my checkbook, but somehow we're going to make it through, and I know that tomorrow, and so I can't see the money, but I know this bill's going to get paid. Hope is, I sure hope this gets paid. Faith is a certainty. Hope is kind of a guessing game. I really am really counting on this happening. All right. How does it keep us motivated? Well, let me ask this question. What's the opposite of hope? Despair. Okay. If we're in a state of despair and we stay in that state for long, what happens to people that are in despair for a long period of time? Depression. They quit.
You give up?
They give up. I give up on the relationship. I give up on my job. I give up ultimately on life, right? If I'm in that much despair. But hope, even when things are bad, continues to move us forward. And so here's where I'm at tonight. I've had 4 sessions with my Monday group of brand new teachers. And I don't know how many times I've met with my mentors, and I've been up on the mountain 4 or 5 times talking to mentors up there. And what I'm hearing is that this year seems to be tougher than last year. Y'all are nodding. That it's a grind, just not for new teachers, but for all teachers. I'm hearing about really odd behavior on the campuses. I'm hearing about almost to the point of chaos at the high schools, of defiant kids, of non-compliance. I'm sorry, I meant to silence this. I mean, we could get to despair in a quick. Now, what about our new teachers that are feeling this? Who, by the way, if they're brand new to teaching this year, didn't student teach in the classroom? Think about that for a moment. All on Zoom, and if a kid was out of line, all we did was push the mute. All right. Well, let me read this for you. Our natural self looks for what is wrong first. It's a defense mechanism designed to protect us from harm. Walking through the forest, we need to know where the snakes are located. We went recently on a trip with my buddy, and we ate dinner, and he wanted to get something out of his truck. We were up in a cabin in the mountains, and so he started to go outside down, and it was raining, and he sees a leaf that's just floating, but it's not moving. And you have to understand, I hate snakes. My buddy hates spiders. And sure enough, there was a spider that was as big as a $50 in this perfectly amazing web that was designed in 2 hours, right? He is constantly alert to spiders. He's always looking out for them because he's deathly afraid of them. We always are looking for what is wrong as a safety mechanism. We do the same with others, and sadly, ourselves. We are, in many ways, our own worst critic. In the quiet times throughout our week, when our inner voices are the loudest, what do they say to self? When we listen to those voices, how does it make us feel? Add to that the pressures of life, the defeats we encounter day by day, moment by moment, and soon the world seems to be caving in on ourselves. To add to the cacophony of our own failures, self-doubt, and negative thinking, we hear the voices of others confirming what we already believe about ourselves. We distort the outer voices to confirm our own bias about who we are. Outside evidence that lays on top of our own self-image, doubt, anger, the frailty of life, failures, mistakes, regrets, hurts, scars, history, all descending on our inner self, the part of us that we hide from everyone. Yet hope lingers. Sometimes it's there in our grasp. A victory, a win, an amazing day or week or month. Sometimes it's just outside of our grasp, calling us, beckoning us to keep moving. One more day, and then it's the weekend. One more month, and then it's vacation. One more year, and then it's retirement. Well, I believe we all need hope. We need to be inspired. We need to know we have a purpose and we're making a difference. Let's work on that tonight. Let's work on hope. All right, so you have some notes to take. And just like a pastor, I've given you 3 points. 3-point outline. Here we go. The first one is hope requires an attitude of gratitude. Hope requires an attitude of gratitude. In your small groups, I want you to share the small things that you are thankful for. The small things that you're thankful for in your table groups.
Yeah, good health.
You can smell after COVID?
I haven't had it yet.
Personal or good health?
Health, family.
Thankful for an awesome
Job.
job.
Oh, yeah.
And I see our view.
Yeah,
Having students in person.
having STIRS stay active was nice for me. Yeah, just, I think for me, it wasn't a small thing, but it was, because I got to return to my first love, which is music, so I was able to do that. So that keeps my hope alive.
Yeah. My,
I'm glad that we
teacher I
have them.
mentor got his feedback, lack of respect.
Society,
He got his journal for the last month and the
getting in
appeal.
a classroom releases you in a way.
And I hope he,
The
and
kids
it was all
themselves
good,
bring
1 out of 1
that
for
kind
both, so I was like, yes.
Yeah.
We worked really hard on it, and
That's their innocence and their
So,
dependence
you
on
know,
you.
I got one out of one on both,
Right.
so
Probably so.
that little thing made a difference. Now we can just focus on it.
Moving
I'm
forward.
thankful for my company. Seriously.
What
Yeah.
company?
Oh, wow. I'm thankful for that.
He teaches at,
Yes.
his high school,
My puppy.
not a moderate, so SBC. Yeah,
My cat.
the district,
Yeah, I got those too.
applied for a while. Out at,
I'm thankful for my kids, my children, their help.
the ranch out there.
Oh, Teen Ranch. No,
I'm
Teen Ranch.
thankful my children are grown and out the house.
And then I
Hard time keeping
went
people off.
to work,
Not as far as you think. That was so fast. I don't know. But usually told me everything's
You worked out
Pretty
at
good.
Valley too?
Yes, for 13 years.
Should be
Oh, yeah.
decent
I asked
already.
him in the first meeting, have you ever written
But
an
it's like
IEP?
when I see them now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You know,
Have you
it's
ever
like,
held
I've gotta
an
do
IEP?
my own
Yes.
thing,
Okay,
Dad.
perfect. Do you know about assessment? Yes.
It's very
He's really
strange
good, I have to
to
say.
go through that full circle. Where they're so dependent on you, and then they reach that one stage
Only
where,
once we've met through email.
Or just
Hi.
in person.
okay, yeah, can I drop you off there? I just wanna go, okay, all right, thanks a lot.
Well, Daryl's right next door, so that makes it easy enough.
Yeah.
All right, so what are some of the small things you're thankful for? Small
He's
things.
been doing it for 4 years. He's pretty much going in.
Family, having a job, retirement's good.
Retirement, yeah, there you go,
I mean, that's
job.
our,
Friday was payday.
Yeah.
What
Coffee.
else?
Coffee.
Coffee, wow, caffeine. I'm thankful caffeine is a legal drug.
Yes.
I think
And you can
good
drink
night's
it in the
sleep
class.
Right?
Yes,
get older.
yes, yes.
Getting a good night's sleep is key, I think, because if you don't have it,
Can't
Right.
function.
yeah.
Right. I'm thankful that finally got some rain and got all the dust and smoke out of the
Yes.
air.
We should get more, right, next week, I
I
think.
think so.
A little bit,
As long as it falls in the mountains in Northern California, we're good, so.
yeah.
All right, so now we're gonna up it just a little bit. What are some of the medium things that you are thankful for? Medium things you're thankful for.
Small. What's
I think I jumped
Maybe
in
my
there.
brother. I think I did too.
Really? Awesome. We worked really hard to get her through.
Well, we didn't list mine, so I'll put it in my,
No, but it's
Right, I direct her.
university, so.
yeah, retirement's been good, but I'm 10 years into that, so it's,
No,
I
I
got
see.
used to that.
Yeah.
But the music is one
I mean,
thing, but
it
when
was
we gotta talk about music,
not much more than Fresno State would have.
they're in my band, so every Tuesday night we come and we talk. That's kind of,
I'll take
and I
that.
go see them at work, and so.
Yeah.
Thankful for her.
I've had
Because my
6
my
for the
middle,
last 4
no, my
years.
youngest has scoliosis.
But as a retired person, and I live by Clovis East, so I went to there and I said, look, I gotta organize this so I come one day,
Get it all done.
so they,
I'm still waiting on the change.
Maximum your time.
yeah.
But she doesn't need it. She
What
didn't
did you
want to take
take?
it. She's wonky.
Well, I was the principal at Madera South
Oh,
for
okay.
25 years when it was
Exactly.
together with Madera High.
And so
And then I
my teacher
was a
mentored
music
literally
teacher
had this
for
really
10 years before that.
So I'm thankful
And I
for
finished
that
up
because
at the
it's a
alternative
story.
education.
Is that a medium or is that big? Maybe
Association.
that's big thing. I
Children.
don't know. You're all jumping. I was assuming we were gonna move to
Because I'm in
big
the
next.
credential program right now to be an administrator. So what was your thought about going from administrator to back to music? So do you feel like more connected to the kids as a teacher versus as an admin?
Well, it's interesting, the way it worked for me was the superintendent at the time, I was teaching and I was the coordinator for the music program in the
Right?
So I had everything. But he came up and said, would you like to be the director of APA or something more than this? I need you to get your credentials. So I did.
Wow.
But while I was getting to do that,
Give it
the
go.
next one said, no, I don't want that. So I had to get a job at a regular school or I'd lose my administrative credential. So I started out the adult school for 4 years and then I broke it to Madera South.
Oh, no.
So I think I actually gained a better connection to the students.
I said, I will fight
Just
you.
the way I like to do things.
All right, what are some meeting things you got?
Yeah.
Health insurance.
State all of them.
Yeah.
I was listening. My dad was in a walker, my mom is in a walker. I'm thankful that I'm ambulatory. You know, we take that for granted, but
Yeah.
whoosh, if you took walking away from me, then, I mean, everything I do, right? All my hobbies, I walk for miles and, oh my gosh, that would be huge. So I'm glad that I'm ambulatory.
I had a back injury recently. I started kickboxing at the age of 45, and I hurt my back and found out it was an old injury from probably high school, and I was laid up for a month.
Oh my.
Yeah, I was zooming with my kids, laying sideways, and you're right. If we're upright and we're moving and we can get from place to place, that's a huge thing we take for granted.
Right. Right. So, I heard, job, was that over here or here? We're over here, maybe we're gonna go to the next level. Having a job seems to be, pretty important nowadays.
Yeah.
I heard, laughter in the classroom. Did I hear that one, or was that,
Students in person, yes.
In person?
Yes.
yeah. Okay, now you know where we're going. What are some big things? Shout them out. We got a small enough group. What do you got?
Financial stability.
I have, this is huge, because I remember where I had 89 cents in my checking account, and there's no one that got paid in the next couple of days.
Right.
Right? What else?
My church.
Church.
Family.
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 I'm going to differentiate just a little bit, and I don't mean to offend anybody, but I'm going to write spouse. Or significant other, partner. Yeah.
I think for me, I've been able to see my students succeed. And when we were through Zoom, it was like we were kind of maintaining where we were so that we didn't backslide, but now I'm actually seeing progress, which is giving me hope.
Good.
Can we take these out to what we're doing with our, as a mentor?
That's exactly what we're doing with them.
Okay, 'cause I have one for that one.
Always, as in.
My teacher and my other teachers, who I keep in contact with, they're the opposite of that as far as the improvement from this year from last year. They're not getting anything done this year, but they're in the music program, and that's a whole nother issue.
Oh.
Because of the masks and everything?
Huh?
Is it because they have
No,
to wear
because
masks?
It's a
well,
brand new program,
This,
essentially.
yeah, I don't really want to get into it because I would say some things I regret, so.
My daughter has a funny mask with a hole in it for her
Yeah, they have to,
clarinet.
they deal
I'm
with
like,
that.
really?
It's so funny, I'm working in Madera, the little I do now, and I also work for Clovis, and I do a band there. Come as you are, play. I have 57 people in front of me, never seen a mask yet.
Like you said, I don't want to get rid of it because I might say something.
Yeah, we don't wear a mask in church. We haven't this whole time.
There seems to be a political bent towards the restrictions and it depends on the political leanings of the person that's making the rules.
Mm-hmm.
And it's unfortunate that it's become a politicized issue. Let me go back up for a moment to the person that's significant in your life. For me, it's my wife. In a relationship, especially a long-term relationship, there are moments when you're grinding with each other, right? Where, for whatever reason, you, especially in my case, where I've irritated my wife, or whatever the case may be, there may be a moment when you wake up in the morning and you're just not ready to be around that person. But when push comes to shove, the truth is you're really thankful for them, right? What are some things that you're thankful for about your significant other?
How comfortable I feel driving home at the end of the day.
Oh, wow. That's an amazing insight.
Knowing there's always somebody there.
50 years later, and I'm still comfortable.
Yeah.
Say that again?
Knowing there's always somebody there to support me when I've had a rough day.
Right? Even if you had an argument in the morning, you can still come home and say,
Oh boy, those are plentiful, absolutely.
Right? What else?
I just have to say mine is he's very patient. So if I do come home and vent, he listens, he lets me vent, and then he tries to be optimistic to
Nice.
get me to come to the other side.
He's a good leader. He leads our family well
Nice.
and loves God.
I appreciate that. My wife has a different way of seeing things, and so I attribute that to just she's wise, and in a way that she has a common sense and a way of saying things that I go, wow, I wish I would have thought it like that or said it like that. I appreciate that, but I also appreciate that. I mean, she lets me go fishing whenever I want. And maybe she's trying to get rid of me. I don't know.
Yeah, there is a reason for that, see.
Might be a break for both of you.
But I come home even on late nights, and this year has been more late nights than ever. There's always a hot meal ready for me. And she sits at the table, even after everyone else has finished eating, to sit with me at the table and visit. And I'm thankful for all those things. One of the interesting things about having an attitude of gratitude or being thankful is that it changes your perspective. And if you think about a rough patch that you've had with a significant other, if you stop and think about the things you're thankful for, it really kind of mellows your attitude, so to speak. And I would challenge you to take this home tonight and tell your spouse or partner what you're thankful for. Now, they may look at you and go, what do you want?
What'd you do?
But I think it will change and cause you to draw closer together. Right? Your teachers are struggling. Help them to find things that they can be positive about or thankful about, even if it doesn't relate to work. At least we can elevate their mood. And it's a small group, so it's a little different dynamic, but the first night I did this, there were 35 of us here, and you could hear giggling going on, and laughter, and you could feel, it was palpable, the mood change. And so my question to you is, do you feel better right now than you did 20 minutes ago? Or are you just so tired and ready to go home and
I think
you
it's
feel better?
I
Right?
think it's natural when you start trying to pinpoint the positive things for it to elevate your mood.
It does. And it's a biblical concept, but it's also, if we read Psychology Today or some of the other national data, it talks about how, in fact, I think there was was it one of these days was a day of Thanksgiving, not Thanksgiving itself, but wasn't there something in the news? I don't remember. But there's national data that shows that being grateful or thankful really does create a positive effect on our attitude and on the way we think about things. All right. So, in order to have hope, we need to have an attitude of gratitude. In order to have hope, we need a different perspective. We need a different perspective. And the first thing I'm going to tell you is we need to stop the complaining. We need to stop complaining. So if you think about that, I was hearing a conversation, I want to get my admin credential. Well, think about a 20-year teacher that would move in and met her a vice principal, and she's been there for 6 weeks. Anybody in a new job is going to make mistakes. And we go into the lunchroom with all of our peers, and we begin picking apart this vice principal. When we walk out of that lunchroom, what is our thoughts about the vice principal? Competent or incompetent? Good or bad? Should have been hired or should have been hired? And we may not have even been thinking about that when we were in the lunchroom, but all it took was one person to complain, and by nature, we all kind of join in, pile on, right? If we start to complain about our work environment, it would be easy for us all to pile in and pile on. If we start talking about a family member that's coming for Christmas and we all start complaining about, okay, Uncle Bob's coming, and right? It affects our children's attitude about Uncle Bob coming. We need to stop complaining and instead be positive, be thankful, but I also want you to be the solution. So I'm learning in my old age not to present a problem without presenting a solution. So if I want to talk to my boss about something that I see is going wrong, I also need to have a pathway for what I see. He may not accept my idea, but at least I have an active, here's what we can do to fix it. If I leave the solution off the table, what am I doing?
Just complain.
I'm just complaining. And that person now has to carry that complaint, and it kind of ruins their moment, their afternoon, their evening, or whatever was going on. So hope requires a different perspective, and the first way to do that is to stop complaining. The second one is really difficult. We need to stop worrying. How often do we worry about things that never come to fruition? And it's wasted energy. How much does it distract us? How many times do we worry about things that we have absolutely no control over? I was listening to the KMJ yesterday on the way up the mountain, and they were talking about Kettleman City and Coalinga literally running out of water. Now, I could sit all night worrying about, oh my gosh, I hope Kettleman City and Coalinga, can I change any of that? No. Not a darn thing I can do about it, right? So why do I concern? I'm learning even to say, I need to fix this, but I can't fix this until Tuesday. So I'm not going to think about it anymore until Tuesday. Because there's nothing I can do about it now. I have to wait until this happens and then I can proceed. Statistics tell us, believe it or not, that we worry about 90% of things that never come to pass. How much energy do you spend worrying? Does it distract you? Does it bring your joy level down? Your enjoyment of the day, the week, the month, or whatever? If you're worrying about something, we have to stop worrying. We can only control what we can control. We have to let go of the things we have absolutely no control over. And if we made a list of things that we're worrying about and then started scratching off the things that we have no control over, how much on that list would be left? And we could do that as an exercise, and I'd be willing to bet that 80-90% of your list would be scratched off. We worry too much, and it's a waste of energy. All right, and number 3, whoops. Yeah. Start seeking positive inputs. Start seeking positive inputs. I found out that I'm kind of a weird guy in one sense, and that most people when they're driving or doing chores or whatever, they put music on. Maybe even to go to sleep. I like listening to somebody talking. I like to listen to the news. I love that I have Sirius XM because I listen to MLB almost year round. Who's the free agent? Who's going to get traded? And or I found 2 comedy channels that I like. One of them's owned by Jeff Foxworthy and Larry the Cable Guy and whatever. They're clean. I can't stand listening to other stuff where there's the F word every 3 words. I just don't even, it doesn't work for me. So I found some comedy to listen to. But if I listen to the news too long, what happens? And I will tell you that by nature, I'm a half glass empty, did I say that right?
Glasses.
A glass half empty kind of guy. I can sit with somebody and start talking politics, and I can tell you all the things that are going wrong, but it doesn't make me feel any better. It actually starts worrying about something I can't control, and I'm like angry all of a sudden, and so I can't listen to a lot of politics on the radio, and because news and politics almost go together, I can't listen to it because it changes my attitude. My inputs are wrong. The second is social media. I will tell you that I made the big decision and I have deleted my Facebook account. I'm sick and tired of all that nonsense and the politicalization of Facebook, and I just got rid of it. I didn't even want my name attached to it anymore. But how does social media affect our teenagers and preteens?
Children.
Right? One thing we can start telling our students is this: do not let somebody's filtered life be compared to your unfiltered life. Right? What we see about the Kardashians is all filtered, all glorified, all made to look great, when you know their life's a mess behind the scenes, because everybody's life is a mess behind the scenes. And all kinds of studies that are coming out that it's having a negative effect, especially on our girls who are constantly worried about self-image, not just body image, but social image and who's popular and who's not. And then the way that they're using social media to attack one another and be mean, it's a bad vibe all the way around. Do we as adults do the same thing? Do we get caught up in social media? And can it affect the way we think and feel about things? It can become a community complaint center. And if we're all complaining, then we're all going to have a shift in the way that we see things. So if we want to have hope, we have to change our perspective and change our inputs. So what are some positive inputs that we can put back into our lives and replace it with news and social media? What do you think?
Music?
Music can be at least neutral, right? Depends on what kind of music we're listening to, right? But at the very least it can. The religion and Christian music, that can encourage us. Faith, you said faith, I think some of you here. Church, we wrote it up. So going to church is something that's a regular practice of mine. Going to Bible study, getting into the Word and praying, that's helpful for me to balance what culture is throwing at me. What are some other positive inputs that we have?
Positive podcasts. I'd like to listen to like the Dave Ramsey show, and it's very encouraging to hear people's stories of financial success and getting out of debt and stuff. Uplifting.
So uplifting podcasts, that's a good one that I hadn't thought about. Friends, certain friends can really be encouraging.
Just being mindful of who your support
Anybody,
system
is anybody at Nishimoto Elementary? If you get a chance, if you ever meet Robert Adams, 4th grade teacher at Nish, that's all he's about is encouraging and positivity. I've never met a man more in tune to, he will even tell me, he's a big, huge Giant fan, but the Dodgers are going to win, they're good for the Dodgers. He's just encouraging all the time about everything. I interrupted you.
Oh, I just said being mindful of who your support system is and who you surround yourself with.
There's some negative Nellies out there, aren't there?
Mm-hmm.
You've got to be careful. Our partners or spouses can be a good source of positive input. It changes our perspective, right?
I think exercise too. I don't know. It's just
There you
going out
go.
for a walk, and especially after all that smoke was up in the air and that first rain came down, just real nice, crisp.
Yep, I would agree. All right. So hope requires attitude of gratitude. Hope requires a new perspective. And finally, hope requires planning. Hope requires planning. Find a clear path. In 1965, Martin Seligman discovered learned helplessness. He found that when animals are subject to difficult situations they cannot control, they stop trying to escape. They become passive. Human beings are the same. If you experience devastating defeats, a persistent situation that you can't change, or a terrifying event that you cannot or could not control your exposure to, then you may have lost hope for your ability to change your life or change your painful situation. Sometimes even an ongoing mood disorder can lead to feelings of hopelessness. We are learning more and more about trauma and education, and students that are experiencing trauma on levels that we never imagined before. And the Zoom kind of exposed some of that, because we got to see what the living conditions were like and what parenting interaction was like. My wife is working for the preschool program, and she's telling teachers, assume every one of your 4-year-olds has already experienced trauma, right? And trauma can lead to all kinds of hopelessness because we can't change that. Can new teachers also get trapped in this feeling of hopelessness, right? And we've seen it. We set a record this year. I had a teacher already quit. And she was in MIC, not just a pre-credentialed teacher, but she was in MIC, and she quit. And I have 2 other teachers that I'm now aware of that I'm wondering if they should quit. They're just struggling so badly in the classroom. That one of them is a pre-credentialed teacher. Actually, both of them are pre-credentialed teachers, and are just struggling mightily in their classroom with kids cussing them out, with squirting water bottles, with not sitting down, with leaving the class without permission, with coming to class late, with not turning in work. I mean, stuff that you and I wouldn't put up with on our worst day, they're dealing with on a daily basis. Are your teachers struggling to that degree? If so, can I help? What can I do to help? You have one that's struggling that bad? What's going on?
Many things. First she got surgery like the second week of school, and so she's not able to get out of her chair right now because it's her leg. And she's got a group of kids that are super, super behind because the teacher before them who doesn't work for us anymore is kind of, I don't know what to say, just passed them on. Basically did the work for them.
Oh, wow.
Instead of having them do their own work. And so they're super behind. They're 5th graders and they don't even know any of the multiplication facts.
So they're essentially 3rd graders educated in a 5th grade
Some
class.
of them are still reading at a 2nd and 3rd grade level. She's struggling. And she's struggling with our curriculum. There's just a lot of struggles.
Wow.
So
So she's feeling like she wants to just give up.
yeah. She's mentioned it several times.
Is classroom management also an issue?
I think she's pretty good with classroom management, but it's hard to manage a class when you're just not able to be vertical, you know? Walking around the class is huge.
Yes.
We've been working with her and trying to help her with some skills and coming along a little bit better, but because the kids are so behind, and she's struggling with it, she's got to go way back, but we've been talking all about we are all having to go back to where they are and then slowly move them up. And so she's kind of having a hard time with understanding that we're all doing it, it's not just her.
All across the nation, actually.
Yeah.
It's not just here in Madera or at your side.
Right.
It's the whole entire nation has experienced severe learning loss.
But is it the pressure to keep moving without being able to go back that's frustrating her? Or is it that there's just too many levels
It's just
to
so many
differentiate
levels,
for?
And just trying to teach the curriculum, yet they're not ready for the curriculum, and so it's just those baby steps.
And it's 5th grade?
Pardon me?
5th grade?
That's a challenge. So she has to lower her expectations almost.
Yeah, and it's hard because our upper quad does Summit. I don't know if you're familiar with Summit. It's a whole different way. And so it's really hard to scale back. I can scale back in my classroom pretty easily, but it's harder for her because it's kind of all presented. It's a different system completely.
Well, if we find a clear path, we can find a trailblazer. And let me say that you are the trailblazer. You are the trailblazer. You've been there and done that. You've had your defeats and you've overcome them, and here you are today as a model teacher that we want others to look up to. So one of the things I will encourage you to do is to be vulnerable and real and authentic with the teachers you're working with. It's okay to tell them, well, I was there, but it was worse because I did this boneheaded thing, or I didn't understand that. And allow them to say, you know, you're looking at what experience does over the years. I've been able to polish those out and smooth them over and fix them up and not make that same mistake again. Help them see, and in your case, maybe talking to her peers, even if it's outside of the school, that are other fifth grade teachers. Let them talk and find out, oh my gosh, we're struggling with the same things, I'm not alone. I think when going through a bad season, if you will, of your life, whatever struggles are there, doesn't it feel like you're the only person that ever experiences those? I remember, especially for me going through a divorce, it felt like I was the only man on the planet that ever had a divorce. Come on now, 50% of the men on the planet have gone through a divorce, but yet it felt like I was the only one that was experiencing these emotions and these pains. And when we can come together and work on a solution together, it lifts us up out of that, if you will, despair, learned helplessness. We need a trailblazer. We need someone that will kind of show us the way.
So I have a teacher, and then there's another teacher at her site, and possibly another teacher who are being harassed by their colleagues.
Oh my.
And they pretty much want to quit because of it. So it's not the kids, it's their grade level teachers telling them what to do, talking down on them, talking crap about them to admin. Like it's a very toxic, and they're in tears daily.
So you're in a position as a tenured teacher to go and talk turkey with admin and explain the situation to them.
And that doesn't like violate confidentiality of
No,
what they're
because
telling
you're
me?
not-
I mean,
You're not talking about their classroom performance. You're talking about some relationships that are toxic and causing the whole department to sink.
what happens if they don't want me to, because I've done that, because they feel like the teachers that are doing that are best friends with admin.
Is there a union?
Yeah.
I would say union would
Kind of a
probably be the
union,
way
a little
to go.
bit of a union.
What side are you at?
Huh?
At what side?
I'm at Sierra View, it's not at my site.
Here, Madera Unified?
No.
Golden Valley.
Golden Valley. Oh. Got it.
It's not at my site.
Okay. If admin's not listening, then you go over their heads.
I don't know if they would listen. They feel like they're best friends.
Is that a true statement or is that a perspective?
I wouldn't
Because you're
know,
not
because
there.
I'm not at that site. But they say that their colleague will say something to them inappropriate, and then later on, admin will say the same thing.
Oh my.
So if it's similar verbiage coming out of their mouths, I don't know.
Would that be an HR thing?
It is. There's not a very big HR department.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, this has been actually like the toughest year I've ever had, and a lot of
Sounds
very
bad.
inappropriate, very, I don't know, like beyond me. Like, I can do classroom manager, I can do, let me help you with the lesson plan, but this is like
Next level
toxicity
stuff.
at a level that's just not
I would
appropriate.
go over their heads to the district office. That's what I would. If you're thinking that the principals aren't going to listen, that's the next step.
Would it be seen as a threat if she went to admin first and said, we've talked to you about this already, now we feel we
You've
have
already
to
talked to
go.
admin, or you're?
I have not, no.
Now we feel we have to go.
That's what I would.
Have
I
they
would-
talked to the teachers affected?
Have they talked to who, each other?
The admin.
No, they are scared to because they feel like the person who's doing that is best friends with the principal.
Well, they need to be reminded that that's irrelevant.
And I have
totally
said
irrelevant.
that, but I can't
I know, it's hard
force
for them
an
at
adult
that.
to go do something. I mean,
And if they don't have that conversation at that level, it's really more difficult to have it above
at a
it.
higher level.
Yeah. He makes a good point.
But I would be interested to know if they're part of the union, or if there is a union
There isn't
there.
really a
There's,
union.
yeah, there's a
It's a
union,
bargaining unit, but there's not a union.
Oh, there's not a union.
Yeah. I
Because we would have
yeah.
like a union rep go with us to
Right.
meet with admin.
Yeah, yeah.
Just as support, not to advocate so much, but just,
And
kinda
you can
different.
remind them, because they're so unhappy, they're gonna leave at the end of the year anyway.
That's, I mean, they're
So,
trying.
it might
they're
be.
on a contract, they can't be fired, for complaining. So-
Is there a lead teacher at the?
That's who's doing it.
Within the first 2 years,
And they
they
feel
cannot be
like-
hired.
If they do that and it gets out, the harassment will just go higher.
Well, that's where there's all kinds of HR issues that can involve and prevent that from happening. It needs to be addressed, in one way or another. It needs to be addressed to people that are controlling and have an ability to change it. And
So I've given them all those things, I've told them all those things, but I mean, me going and putting myself in the middle of it, she said, I mean,
you could
and
go
it's a
with
small
them.
district.
Yeah, you could. I
5
know.
people in it, you know what I mean? Like,
You could go with them to talk to the administrator, if they'll, but otherwise, yeah, they're gonna leave no matter what. Whether they're fired or quit, and you seek other, they're gonna, so they have nothing to lose.
Have they been documenting what's going on?
Yeah.
I think one has, yeah, that's what I tell her to do.
Well, the sad thing is they're gonna leave and then someone else is gonna come in and probably
Have the same
find the
issue.
same.
The same,
Right.
Harassment, yeah.
But if they're under 2 years and they complain, they can let them go. Ed code says we don't have to rehire you within the first
You
year.
don't have to
and we
rehire
don't-
them,
yeah.
but they have to finish the year out. in the
Right,
contract.
but we
That's
don't
my
have to
point.
give you a reason why we're not rehiring you. And then when they apply somewhere else, they're gonna ask them, has any other district ever said they didn't wanna rehire you within the first 2 years? And then they have to say yes. So, I mean, it's how many months, I mean, we're really just in the beginning of the school year, so,
And I mean, like,
that's
tears
hard.
several times a week.
Yeah.
But then if they try to get out of the contract,
Then
that's,
it's even
that's
worse.
looked down upon as well as a teacher.
It
So,
has to-
And they were told, I think one did think about it, and someone, I don't know, told them don't do it because because of COVID, tell you no. And then you tried to get out of your job. I don't know.
Maybe
I don't know
they
those
need to-
rules, but
take a leave of that.
it's something I've never dealt with and all these, I don't know, it's very different. And I'm not familiar with the site and I don't know the people at the site,
Right.
so
That's a tough position to be in.
Yeah.
it's me giving advice to, it's a lot of like, our meetings are more like cry sessions you know what I mean?
What are the main complaints from the bullies, I guess? They don't like the way they run their class, or?
Yes, they have to do exactly what they're told to do. They can't deviate. One, she doesn't like her, she says, because she's not loud enough. She told her she was replaceable.
Another teacher told her that?
Yeah.
Wow.
Like, she talks to her like if she was her admin.
So maybe they just need
Or
to.
worse than an admin would
Yeah, I
talk
was
to you,
gonna
because
say,
admin
I
wouldn't
hope admin doesn't.
necessarily talk to you that way.
Right, not their favorite.
So we need to give them some encouragement.
Yes.
And I kind of, it sounds a weird analogy, but it's like the guy asking the girl out for the date. We're not going out now. The worst she can say is no. So we're still not going out, but she could say yes.
Yeah.
They won't lose their job until the end of the year, but if this situation stays the same, they're gonna quit anyway. So the outlook is, I don't have a job for next year anyway, so I might as well learn to stand up for myself
Yes.
now. Because even if I leave this district, I may find another situation where there's somebody that's in my face. I need to learn to stand up for myself. And that's kind of the approach I would take is, look, let's stand up for yourself now. Even if they decide not to bring you back, you don't want to come back, so who cares? Let's get this done for you personally. How do I advocate for myself to make sure that the work environment that I am is pleasant to be in? And so that means going to admin and And if that is unsatisfactory, then take it to the next level, to the district office. The teachers need to be able to stand up for themselves in any environment. And this is only one of them. They could have the same situation in another job, even if it's not education. They need to be able to stand up for themselves. And there are protections in place that if I'm a whistleblower, so to speak, that retaliation comes, then it falls on the perpetrator harder than it does on the victim. There are.
Yes, and we've gone over all of that, but I just don't think they believe it, and they just come back with, if we do that and she finds out, she's not going to help us with anything that we need help with, and yeah.
That's possible.
They're just cyclic, they're just spinning, I guess. I don't know.
Do they have a high turnaround in that school? Yeah? Because of that, probably?
Maybe.
Yes, I don't know.
I don't know, I don't know how
know.
long, but I know that,
Yeah.
it's
Golden
high
Valley
turnover.
itself has turnover partly because of
Well, that's because we don't pay anything, but that's
their
another
salary.
story.
Yeah.
It is. You have pretty good kids, but
Salary and location.
Exactly.
Yeah, I would tell them, as veteran teachers, we've all been there, not maybe to that extent, but we've had issues with our peers or admin, and you have to learn to stand up for yourself. Or the more it's done to you, eventually you get angry enough that you will stand up for yourself, and then you learn from it. But I think a lot of the fear is that they're new, they're not fully
I think,
credentialed.
Teachers that aren't tenured have a really hard time standing up for themselves.
Yes.
Would you like me to go with you to talk with the teachers?
Maybe. I have a meeting tomorrow with one of them, so I'll talk to her tomorrow.
Okay, I can do that.
Like,
Yeah.
I was demoing in one of their classrooms yesterday for them, and so I met with them after school, and they were complaining that the teacher who gave them, I met with them a week prior on a Wednesday, and met with all third grade through the whole district to do training with them. So that teacher penalized them because I did a district training with third grade and their third grade teachers. We went over writing that day, and you just have to do it. And so they called her in front of me and asked, "Hey, I don't understand what to do with this." She said, "It's easy, figure it out." Like, that was her response to them. Like, and she's getting paid extra to be the leader of that third grade team. Like, so if we were as teachers just talking, it's easy, just do it, kid. Like, I mean.
Fair enough.
There's an example for the administration.
Right? What if we
Well,
said
that's
that
what I
to
told
our
them. I'm like,
students?
are you allowed to tell your kids that? It's
Yeah,
easy, just figure it
exactly.
out? Like, no. She's getting a stipend to support you, I mean, as a lead teacher. I don't know.
Even without a stipend, they should support it.
Right, I mean, no one should be
Yeah.
like that to anyone.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's very, very,
So it's turned
Unique.
personal for some reason, and that's.
Is that teacher older or just like ready
No.
to go out the door? They're-
nope,
No?
nope, and they want to be admin. It's a goal.
Oh, jeez.
Not the right way.
All right. Well, find a trailblazer. I will.
Yeah, wow.
I'm trying.
I will tell you.
I would bring Steve out there, he's really good with it.
Yeah, I would do.
I will tell you that, as you know, my father passed away, and there's not a sense of huge grief. It's more of a sense of joy of knowing that suffering's over. He suffered medically for a long time, and he's in a better place. But my dad had a philosophy that I'm really trying to live up to, and I don't think I'll ever get where he was. He was on the Sherman Thomas board, on the Valley West board. He was on the board for Channel 18 in public radio. He started Make-A-Wish in the San Joaquin Valley and on their board. He was on during Camarita's born, the Rescue Mission board. He was city planning commissioner and then county planning commissioner. I mean, the list is endless. Rotary for 30 years, so perfect attendance, and Rotary president. I mean, the list is.
He used to help me with the band.
That's right. I also know that he gave not just his time, but his talents. So he would do the auctions on Channel 18 back in the day when they would do that to raise money, or He was the MC. My stepmom just told me that he's done 18 eulogies for different funerals. He came to Madera in '62, or '64 actually, to be the disc jockey at K-Hot radio station over on Avenue 15. And was there until they sold it in '72 or something like that. I also know that, so he gave his time, he gave his talent, he also gave his treasure. I know it went unnoticed in a lot of ways, but my dad gave like 20% of his income away. I mean, crazy amounts of money. I think that was kind of his gift, really. Of all the things he was good at, he was quietly giving it. Trees for Charity was a Rotary event. You're supposed to sell tickets. It's a fundraiser for Rotary. My dad didn't do that. He would buy the tickets and then give them away, right? And that was just kind of the way that he did things. And so I look at him and think, gosh, how can, his philosophy was you got to give to get, and you got to give first. And he did. And he gave and gave and gave. And so now I'm trying to challenge him, well, how can I give? What do I have to offer, you know? And so I pour myself into my church, and when my son was in Boy Scouts, I poured myself into that. And but I think that I can't rest on that. I have to continue to look for what else can I do? What else can I give? How can I be of service to our community or to our family or to whatever? A trailblazer that becomes inspirational, right? Because I mean, the list of things he did, there's no way I'm touching that. There's no way. But if I could do 10% of what he did, then I feel like I'm living up to his legacy. And I want to come back to the fact that that's you. You are the trailblazer. You're heroes in our young teachers' minds. And I want to say first that I appreciate you. And I know you're not getting a lot of compensation for what we're asking you to do. But thank you. And I want you to know that I hold you in the highest regard as a trailblazer for our young teachers to look up to. And if you can find others like you, other third grade teachers at different sites or whatever, that our teachers can get to know and look at and see, it's okay to make these mistakes, I can overcome them and move forward. Finding a trailblazer really helps us in our planning for hope. And the last, of course, is to set goals. Set goals, even if they're small goals. Start with where you're at and what you know you can do, and then stretch yourself to do more, to do a little bit more each and every time. That's our message, so to speak, our sermonette on hope, an attitude of gratitude, a changing perspective, and planning. I actually want to change that word planning to intentional. Hope requires us to be intentional. All right, last thing, and then I'm going to let you go. We started this 3 years ago, and I'm going to continue using it. You have a paper copy of our goals and rubric. So this is the rubric, and then our teacher goals. And I'm going to break a rule, a promise. I told you I would never put an assignment into the Mentor classroom, but I'm going to actually make this one an assignment, just as a way of collecting all of this. What I want to do is have you grade yourself on your rubric, and then think of 3 goals for yourself as a mentor. What do you want to get better at? And then we'll revisit this again in April. So I'm going to put that in the classroom as an assignment, and it'll be like 2 or 3 weeks later before. I'm not going to have you turn it in next Friday. So you'll have some time to think about it. But I want us to continue using